Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Max One Chase One again. I'm here with the chicken wing. I'm in the process where I'm going to be taking my stator out because I put one in August of last year, and here it is August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 8 months later, and I have to replace it again because I'm not getting any high voltage over 12 in the wires here. First of all, before I do this of taking the engine out, I want to give the props to Steve Saunders on YouTube. He did a wonderful job with showing how to take the engine out of a 1200 Goldwing. And what I did is, at first I said to myself, is no way in the world I can do that. That's too much stuff to be doing with a motorcycle, with never having been done before. But after you look at the video about 2, maybe 3 times, you kind of see that it's not as of a big task as it's detailed to be. So what I did is I decided to take and watch the video for another time, and I took my time and I wrote down all the steps of what he took loose, what he removed, and I came up with 50 steps on what he did to remove the complete engine all the way where they took it away from the frame. So I'm going to be going through the process of following my list and showing you the detailed things that Steve Saunders did, and also too, I'm going to be speaking it instead of showing type dialogue in there. I'm going to be speaking it. So if I see any issues or any problems that I'm having, you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about, and I will try to describe it to my best of my ability. Now for my tools, like I said, I have my metric toolbox here with the sockets. I have some of the tools in this little tray that I'm going to use that's constant, like the 10mm, the 12, and I think a 17. It's a wrench here, so I can either use a wrench or either a socket. I've got some small twist ties, and I've got some of the large twist ties, because I'm going to use the method that Steve used where he held the intake manifold up. Here's another metric tools that I have in this box, and this other box here, this other tray is going to be used for accessory stuff. Then also too, I got a box where any parts that I take off small enough to fit in that box, I'm going to put them into that box. Also too, I've got a Tupperware storage bin that which I'm going to drain the radiator in. Also too, look at the space that I have, because you know that the engine is going to come out from the left side, so I have all this space here to have my jack to pull the engine out. Over here on the right side, I'm up here up against the wall, but it's not that bad. I still got access where I can walk around here and do what I need to do on the right side. But mainly, when you go to take this engine out, you mainly want to have enough space on the left side so you can take the engine out on the left. Okay, that's enough introduction. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Also, you're supposed to take off both of your side covers. That's the right side. Now that's the left side, that's the right side. Reason for that is you must be able to get to this bolt here, and the other one's on the opposite side, just in the same place. Alright, I'm over here on the left side, and the first thing I want to do is I want to take the battery off. Notice I've got a head start on it. I took the screws loose, and what I like to do, I like to put the screws back into the battery so I don't lose them. This bracket here that holds the battery in, pull that down. Over here on the left, you can kind of see this is the drainage hose. Make sure you disconnect that from the battery. After that is done, you can pull the entire battery out along with the tray. And I'm going to set that off to the side. What I like to do also too, again, put the screw back into the battery that holds the battery in so you don't lose it. There's nothing else that's got to be coming from out of this area, so it's not going to be in the way. Okay, YouTube, there's one bolt out from the right side. There's the other bolt from the left side. Now mine is a 12 millimeter. Could be different from other bikes. If you just get a nut to fit it, mine was a 12 millimeter. Now what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go inside this where the gas tank is, and I'm gonna pull the lever and pick up the seat from the back and see if it'll release. I pull the lever up. That's how the seat comes out. Just that easy. Now, since I know that the rectifier is not in this area here at all, so that we know then it's up under the tank or it's up in this area here. So what I'm going to do is next, I'm going to take these little rubber bushing pieces off. There's one on the right side. And one on the left side. It's always one that's got to be tougher than the other. And while you're here, I'm going to move the little glove box here where your registration card and your toolbox will go. Next item I'm going to take off before I can take the tank area off, it's a bolt there, and the other bolt is right there. And to get to those two bolts, you got to take this little snap ring cover off, and then you got to take the cover off. And there are two screws here, and I think it's two up at the top. Two there, two here. That side, same way. Two screws up top, two screws on the bottom. Now I have taken out the 4 bolts. One here at the bottom, one on the other side, one up at the top there, and one on this side. It's getting a little dark, so I'm still going to try to let this be my last segment right here. I'm going to show you that the tank is loose and it's ready to, the tank cover is loose and it's ready to come off. The next thing on my list is the breather hose. Get your pair of small pliers, squeeze it, and just push it right off. Now I can tie this up somewhere where it won't be out of the way, which I'll do later on. I'll probably attach it somewhere like that. Also too, while I'm here, right here is the fuel turn off. I'm going to go ahead and shut the fuel off now while I'm here. And my next step here is right alongside the battery and the stator wires is the pulse generator plug. Push the little plug, locking plug in, and pull down on it, and there it's disconnected. Same thing, you can take the upper portion. Again, also too, take that and you can tie that later up and out of the way. Before I should have got the pulse generator, that's where they got the neutral switch. And the neutral switch is right on the left side, so there's the foot peg on the left side, go right up the frame, go right side where the pulse, the rectifier is here, go right along that frame and you see it with a red wire right there. And it's 3, I believe it's 3 switches that are attached to there. And that is the neutral switch, the one with the red. I can't hold my light and do it, but I'm going to take that plug loose and I'm going to put some tape around it and say neutral switch. As you can see, I've taken the neutral switch loose. Again, remember the red, I'm a little close. Remember the red tape that's on here? You get ready to put it back. Look for that red tape plug that's right up under it, that it goes to right inside of here. Now what I noticed in the video is some things I can do on the left side that's on the exterior. I think I'm gonna jump around on the list a little bit, because I know that on the video they went from taking the neutral switch off to unclip the clutch line, the top and the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip around a little bit more, and I'm gonna take this black canister here off. And I think he said that was a 10mm socket. Again, I've got a speed wrench with a 10mm socket. It shouldn't be on there too tight because it's plastic. Take that right on off. Pull the canister around, and like I said before, I'm gonna put the screw right back in there. I'm not in no hurry. I'm not getting paid by the hour, so this is gonna be my security blanket to keep me from having the parts lost. So again, put the screw right back in there. I can wind up and clamp this and pull this on off, but if it's not in the way, I can just tie it up and leave it right there. Also too, while I'm here, I have my gas overflow hose that's coming right from right there if I overflow with gas. So I can take that, pull that up, let that hang on the outside. Here's my battery, and that's got a hole in it. Glad I saw that. I can take this, pull this up and out, and the same thing, tuck it where it's out of the way. Just like I stated before, you're gonna need all the room you need, as much as you can, so anything I can get out of the way, I'm gonna get it out of the way. Alright, going on to my next object I'm gonna do, I could take this left foot peg off. I think I will. Alright, left foot peg, 17mm socket, and it's coming off. And as like I always say I'm gonna do, put the washer no, I want to leave that off because I think that this bracket has got to come off. Alright, so I'm gonna leave that off. And this might be my pet peeve, but this is one of the things that really gets me, is when you're doing something and you lose a bolt or a washer or something. So what I did, I went and I've got me some painter's tape. I couldn't put the nut back on there for right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tape the nut and the washer right to the peg itself, and it's going in the box. Alright, now here's the starter cable, and like I said, right side the shifter on the left side. It's a beast to get to. Same thing, I can take that one off, and also too, it can go up and be tied up out of the way. Alright, again, while I'm on the left side, some things you didn't see in the video, but you have to have use your common sense, and I think Steve was pushing that toward that way. He didn't say anything about the lower flaring here. So I'm gonna get ready to take off these lower fairing here and this fairing here, the bottom piece, and on the right side. Alright, so I'm gonna go in the process of taking those off right now. Now as you take off the lower fairing, you have this piece here is gonna come out. And as soon as you go to move this piece, the piece up under the radiator is gonna come out. And this is the whole fairing piece for the left side. When you take off the fairing, notice that these screws, they've got special washers that go with them. So the same thing, either tape them together, put them in a little can or a hefty bag, and save them together. Now I will take off the fairing for the left and the right side. The reason for that is because you can't get to the engine guards here. So you need to take the lower fairing off. So it'll look just like this. The next item I'm gonna remove will be the engine guards and the exhaust. They had to almost be in conjunction with each other. You have to either have to take a certain part of the guard loose and then loosen up so much of the exhaust to drop it down, so that this bar here from the engine guard, it comes down, curves around, and it goes to this bolt here. But what I did to eliminate that is that you can kind of notice I cut mine off. You know, some people may figure that you might need that, but once you tighten this bolt and that bolt, it's got enough restraint holding capability that it won't move at all. Alright, so that's what I'm in the process right now of removing the engine guard and some of the exhaust screws from the exhaust header. I had already loosened them up yesterday because it was getting dark. So what I did also too, I recommend you use some penetrating oil and spray it on your bolts the day prior, so that way they'll be a little bit easier to take off when you go to remove them. Now see, here I can move this without having that piece curving around, and I have to loosen up that bolt right here. Now after you remove the engine guard on the left side and you've loosened up the header bolts, don't take them out. Go to the other side and catch up in the same degree of dismantling that you are right here, because if you loosen up this side and take the bolts out, then the exhaust is going to be loose, especially with that bolt if you loosen the bolt back in the back. So again, I'm not going to throw you off track. Taking the guard off here, loosen up the header bolts. I'm going to go on the other side and catch that side up. For the right side engine guard, you can kind of see I've taken it loose here, and notice I put the screws right back on it. Just put the clamp right back into the engine guard here. Now with this lower part of the engine guard here, I had to make this bracket because something got misplaced last time, and I had to make this U bracket myself. So this is loose. Now here's this other bolt. Now with this one, it goes around the back, and you got to loosen this bolt, and I think this side usually would come out with no problem. I think I could do a little twisting. And turning to get it out. And you do have to do a little twisting. Pick it up. And there we go. And it comes out. And now I will wind up and loosen up the exhaust manifolds from this side. After loosening up your header bolts, come right on back to the rear, and you've got to have an Allen wrench. Mine's a little old, so it can't tell me what size it is, and you have to loosen that bolt right here and remove it so you can take the rear muffler off. Alright, and then once if you don't have any room, you use another wrench like that and get some more torque with it, and you can take it off. Now since I have my header bolts loose, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this bolt and the one on the other side, and then I can just take the exhaust headers off on the front, and it'll just come right straight down evenly. I don't want it to come down cockeyed. Now on the left side, I did take the bolt and I put the nut right back on the end of it, and I've taken the other side loose. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take the bolt out of the hole, because I don't want all that pressure on my header bolts, because those things are almost hard to find or nail to get to. So I don't want to damage those hardly none at all. So I wanted something that would help support the headers in the front. And as I get the headers loose, then all I got to do is just take one bolt out and the exhaust would drop. With the headers, you can kind of see that some of the bolts come out and sometimes the whole stud comes out. So I took 3 of them out and left one in there just to, well, no, I did take all 4 out here. But on the other side, I left one in, so when I get ready to take the screw out, I can pretty much let it fall. I am on the right side. I have one screw here. Then I just got to pull the bolt there. And on the other side, all the bolts are out. And also true on the rear, the bolts out. So when I take this last bolt out and that last bolt in the rear, the whole system should fall. Notice I put the bolt right back in this, with the bolt that came through it. I put it right there. Take this last header bolt nut off. Now I should be able to shake the system and the whole system should fall off. When taking the headers off, you kind of see that is down now. What it was the muffler that was giving me a little trouble. So what I did, them 2 bolts there, I loosened those 2 bolts there, and that kind of gave me a little bit of a twist in order to release the headers from the block. And so the other side, that came down with no problem. So you may want to think about removing the exhaust, mainly the mufflers from the headers. Like I've said before, get you some hefty bags, kind of help separate your stuff so they go right back where they came from. Notice I have the left side headers in the bag and the right side headers in the bag. So the only thing about it, I have to figure out which hole they go in, instead of just trying to figure that these bolts go on the right side or this one on the right side go on the left side. So all I have to do is 4 here and 4 there. And helps keep them from getting lost. What I see is pretty much is an easy way to disassemble and take the engine out on this bike is to work on everything that's on the outside and then work your way inward. So that's what I see. If you take care of all the stuff on the outside and then leave the stuff that's on the inside and inside in those corners there, a couple holes there like the banjo bolt, and then the timing cover there. Do everything on the outside first, on the left and the right and in the front, and then just work your way inward. So what my 3 wires here for the stator, they were soldered. So what I did, I just clipped them on one side of the soldered end and one side of the other end, and the same thing as before. You just take this and just tuck it out of the way. That is the long bottom bolt all the way through. It went from this side all the way through to the other side. There's the bolt and the washer for this side. It's got a nut and a washer for that side. I'm sorry, it's a nut and a washer. And this nut washer is going to go back on here. I wrote on it with some blue tape, long bottom bolt, so I know exactly where it goes. And this is going in the box. And now I'm going to remove this other 14mm bolt of the frame member. It's on the left side. I removed the rear left side frame member in the rear. Now I'm going to come up and remove the 2 bolts here for the frame member in the front. And before I can take the frame loose, the lower left frame, I must take the 19mm nut on this end, and it's a 17 on this end. I couldn't get a socket in it because the drive was too big and the 1/2 inch was too big. So I had to use a 19mm wrench on that end, and this one I can use the ratchet. That is the lower 19 and 17mm nut, exactly in that location on the other side of that frame. So now I can take the lower frame out. And now I hope my lower frame will come out and act like Steve's did. See if they give it a good whack. And there you have it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this nut and bolt so I don't lose any of this screws or nuts. Place it right back in there. And now this can go into the box. Now here's a FYI. I want you to remember, my next step is for me to drain the radiator and take the radiator out. But I want this point to be known right now. Notice, even though I've taken the lower left frame out, do not fool with that bolt yet. The one right up at the top. That bolt that goes all the way to the other side, and these two bolts. These bolts here are the only ones that are holding that engine up right now. So remember, deal with the outside. We're not ready to go inside yet, and that's coming up soon. And when it comes to taking the radiator off, this is what you need to do. Take the radiator cap off, then unplug the overflow hose that comes up and goes into the overflow tank here. Alright, so I can't film it and do it at the same time because I got it in one hand. You can do this now. Take the cap off so the radiator will drain a little faster through the drain plug. Alright, again, go ahead and do this now. Notice after taking the radiator cap off and I've taken the hose off, I'm going to place the hose over here out of the way, and I've placed the radiator cap right up on the dash, and I know where that's at. I'm not worried about putting that in the box. It's not going to leave from that area anyway. Now I'm ready to drain the radiator. The radiator plug here is a 14mm socket. Place your tub on it a long way because the nan is vented up at the top. I'm going to loosen it, see how much it's going to pour out there real quick. It's trying to come out there pretty fast. I'm going to put a deflector on it somewhere. That's coming out there a little fast. I'm going to use a funnel as a deflector. Let's see how this works. And that works out fine, just like that. Okay, I'm not going to let you watch me drain radiator fluid. That's just like watching grass grow. After the radiator fluid has drained, next is to loosen up the two bolts here for the thermostat and take that loose. And once you have the two screws out, give it a slight tap and let that break free from the engine block. Just like that. Now for other, just don't have too much flex. I might wind up and take this clamp off right here and take it off from the hose here. That's an option. It's up to you. Also too, I recommend it highly after you have drained the radiator and you have radiator fluid in your container, to keep from having dead dogs and cats, because they will love to lick this stuff because it tastes sweet to them, but later on you'll find them over in the yard dead in a doornail. So take this radiator fluid now and put it in a a container so you can pour it back into your bike when you're finished. Again, like I said, this is an option, but I did take that upper clamp loose so to give my opening here where the thermostat can go a little bit more flexibility. Again, notice I've taken the thermostat off and I have placed the 2 bolts here for the thermostat and the drain plug right back into the housing. Now my next step is to wind up and come up here to the radiator hose and remove this radiator hose so I can take the radiator out. I've taken the radiator hose out. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but your hose should be flexible enough, and if your hose is not flexible enough, it may be time to replace it because it may be dry rotted. Alright, and there's the hoses off. Notice I left the clamp down here. I can take it off now and place it on the end of my hose. Again, the main thing is to try to remember where everything is so everything stays together. I'm just going to snug it up, not make it tight. And that's that. Now I'm ready to take the radiator out. Take this screw off. And the assembly piece. Place it right there. Take the other screw off. And this assembly piece. And place it on the other side. So I've got the right side and the left side. The nut and the bolt. I mean the nut and the bracket. The nut and the bracket. Now, take a notice here, those rubber bushings. There's nothing holding the radiator on at the top except for those rubber bushings. There's one on the left side, and this one here on the left side. And what they do, they have a U in this rubber bushing, and they go right up against there. Alright, so I'm going to pull it out from the bottom, and it'll come right straight down and off. I hope I might have a good angle on it. You pull it out. Come easy right on down. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop so far because I've got the radiator plug I need to unplug. Alright, so I'm going to stop there. And that's that plug I need to unplug there. Let's take a look around and see what else that may need to come unplugged too as well. Now I think this is a thermostat sensor wire. Same thing, just take it out this little bracket here that holds it in place. Pull it back and around. Go to the thermostat switch. Push your plug in and pull that around. And now I should be able to take the radiator out with no problem. I will wind up and turn the steering wheel a little bit just to see if it'll give me more clearance to come out on this side or either on the right side. Now I'm going to turn the steering wheel to the left, and that still gives me a little clearance and the wheel is almost straight. And out comes the radiator. Notice my radiator do have a radiator guard. You do not have to remove these screws to remove the radiators. Only these two here at the bottom. As I stated before, after I've taken the radiator out, it says me now to take out the fuel pump. But I said before, what you do on the outside, try to stick to the outside, work from left to right. Such as the spark plugs. I can take the spark plugs out on the left, and I'm going to do the ones on the right. Now some Goldwings have this carburetor plate on it, If you want to use a long socket to go down, you can't do it. So you have to take this off. Again, that's another optional. But either you can use a wrench. I think this is a 10 millimeter. Alright. I'm going to come back and do the intakes in a minute. So I'm going to do the spark plugs on the left, do the spark plugs on the right. Then after that, I'll come back and I get me my twist ties, my large twist ties, and I'm going to go right up under here, all the way across to here, and tie this up to the frame and support it on this side, and then I'll do the same on the other side. And that's coming up right after this. Now I'm in the process where I'm going to secure the intake manifolds. Let me make one point clear on this one. These devices I have, they're called zip ties. I know you might have noticed in earlier parts of the video I might have said twist ties. Just go ahead and scratch that out your head. You know I meant zip ties instead of twist ties. Alright, I got these large ones from out of Lowe's. I ran it from here down, up under the intake manifolds, came back up into here, and all I got to do now is just pull it taut there. And that would secure the intake manifold in this upward position when I get ready to loosen them up from here. I'm going to do the left side, and then I'm going to go over there and do the right side. Remember, what you do on the left, do it on the right if it applies. I am now going to remove the right side timing belt. Timing cover. Both are the same size, so you don't have to worry about one being longer than the other. See if I can give it a little tap, see if it'll break loose. Let me get a tool and I'll be right. Let me try the screw. Shouldn't do that. Let me go get a screwdriver or something to tap it with. Well, while you're here, we only got a screwdriver, but if you can take these little rubber tab bushings out, go ahead and take them out. Place them right back on your screws. Now I'm going to use a screwdriver, see if I can pry it, and that did it. So after you've taken these out, these rubber bushings here, use your screwdriver and you can pry that. That belt seems a little loose, doesn't it? And once you have the cover off, go ahead and take your rubber insulation away from all the way around. Right here at the bottom, there's a little bit of a gap. So remember that gap goes right here at the bottom when you get ready to put it back on. And when it matches up to there. Yeah, right to there. So it's pretty much right up under this gear. Now remove your left side timing belt cover. I'm trying to figure which one overlaps on the other, and I will see here in a minute. You can use your Allen wrench while you have it. Pop that one out. Right back on the screw. That one out. Pop that out. Right back on the screw. Take something that you can pry cover with. Since it had a handle reach on it, I just reached inside the timing belt cover and just pulled it off. Now this gasket, notice that this gasket comes off with the left side, and it's all incomplete in one piece, and it goes over here. So really I can kind of see why this side should have came off first, the left side, because this comes off first and then the right side, because then when you get ready to put it back on, it's got to be the right side first and then the left side so it can clamp over the top of it. Did that make any sense? Should. Again, we're going to put it back on. When taking the timing cover off, the left side should come off first, because the left side is overlapping on the right side, just like I was thinking about earlier. So then when you get ready to put it back on, it should be the right side go on first and then the left side go on last, because the left side is going to overlap on the right side. Now that since I've taken both covers off and the rubber gasket that goes around the cover, now I'm going to go along with the phase where I take my 19mm socket and rotate the engine clockwise until there's a mark here, and here's the up mark here, until the up mark is up at the top and this mark is lining up with this mark here. I'm going to try not to record this because I don't want to go around but one time, so this is what I'm going to do. And as I've noticed, it also to make sure that your bike is in neutral. So I'm gonna put the bike in neutral because I can feel the back tire turning. All right, continue on with turning the engine to where the marks will line up. The up mark is here. I just need to get it around till it comes up to here. And this mark here, opposite of this mark here. Alright, the mark is coming around. Get closer. I'll put my head in your way so I can see it. And there. After my timing marks on both sides have been lined up, I did see a little bit of tension on my timing belt, so I did loosen up the tensioner. You gotta loosen up both sides. One secures it with this plate that comes where you got the adjustment slot here that'll put the tension on it with the spring. This one is for this belt, and that one over there is for that belt. Right, there's one screw here, one on the other side that pull it. I did tighten them up just a little bit so they don't try to skip. And I'm in the phase where I'm getting ready to take away the thermostat sensor switch. Is 2 prongs is inside this connection here, and right behind here is a single wire, which is a can't remember what it's called. It's called the, I'll find it on my sheet in a minute. Hold on a minute. It's a single wire temperature sending wire. Alright, so that's what I got to wind up and remove. Once I remove this one, I can just plug that one off from right in there. To remove that sender wire right in the back, it's hard to get in between where this plate is. I'm going to find out what's the purpose of this plate. It's not needed. When I get this off, I'm going to cut this off right here. I just took a screwdriver and just pushed it right off, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back through and I'm going to tape it, say sending wire, and we all know where this one goes with the 2 prongs on it on the inside. That is your thermostat sender unit. And now I'm still on the outside. I'm over here on the right side, and I'm going to take the fuel pump loose. I'm going to take this bolt loose and swing it a little bit if I can. Again, just like it says, save your grommets. I mean your rubber bushings. I'm going to set them right there for now, because that one right there is hard to get to. Even with this on, I may have to take this off. But now I done tightened up my John branded twist tie. I'm going to have to be patient enough to do that with a wrench. So that's where I'm at right now. Be right back to you in a minute. Okay, I've worked that one pain in the tail bolt out of there. So what I'm going to do now, I noticed on Steve's video where he took the exit line coming out of fuel pump off. But I think I can just wind up and hold this in the upward position like that and twist, zip tie there. I'll go with that twist tie and zip tie this off in the area and hold it up, and that'll have it. Unless I see something that's attached to it that is going somewhere that's going to the block. But other than that, right now I think I can zip tie that up, because everything that's coming out of the fuel pump is going to go into the intake area. Right now I think I'm down to where I'm almost about to finish with the removal of the necessary parts on the outside. But I'm going to go ahead and get my jack, stick my jack up under the bottom and support the engine a little bit before I get to these intake manifold bolts here, because I don't want any slack to come between the block and here and this twist tie to snatch this up. So I'm just going to support it a little bit, and then I'm going to come right back to this right here and take this off on the left and the right side. Like I said earlier, I'm going to get my jack. Notice I took my jack and I turned the steering wheel to the left. Now my jack, it doesn't have swivel wheels in the back, but I wish it did, but it do have swivel wheels in the front. So when it comes time for me to pull the engine off the shaft, I could come forward and turn at the same time. So I hope that works good for me for right now. So now I'm going to release my intake manifolds. 1, 2. I'm going to get that one too, but I can't remember what it's called. That one, this one is this one. And remove this right here. It should come up when these come up, when I get ready to let the engine down. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So this is what I want to do right now. They should be a little bit loose where I can start taking them loose. So that's where I'm at right now. Now notice when you take them off, the whole stud comes up. Now I'm going to recognize the difference, is any difference in the height of them. Now these should be the same, but it's those two I think that may be different height. But also too, the head looks different as well. So take a notice of the intake manifold bolts. They are all the same size. Alright, now I've taken the bolts out on the left and the right side of the intake manifold. You know, when I was talking about these two bolts here, correction, do not touch them. Those come out with the motor. Also to remember, when you get to this phase here, this is a time really to look up on the left side and look up under here and see what's attached to the block and what stays with the intake manifold. I know it's hard to see, but you see that pipe? Let me see if I can. You see that pipe right there? That's the pipe that goes right across to this piece here. So don't fool with this piece. This is going to come down with the block, and there you have it. Now I believe we're pretty much almost finished with the disassembling of certain components. I'm not going to include this bolt and that one, and the same thing with this one and the other three, I'm gonna let that be part 2 of the engine removal. So my last thing I'm gonna take loose is this all sending unit right here. It's a Phillips screw, and I'm gonna see if I can get it. If I don't, I have to go in and get my other bent type screwdriver and take that loose, and that'll be the final step right there. And this is one of the final phases where I take off the all sending wire. It's a screw with a nut head on it, so I'm gonna try to see if I can find it where it's a nut instead of a Phillips screwdriver. Alright, this should be the end of part 1 of the engine removal for a 1984 Honda Goldwing 1200. Part 2 will be the removal of the supporting bolts and withdrawing the engine.